I will be paying a tribute to one of the most important African American women in our history. She had an incredible mind and helped with the math and research that sent the first man safely into space. Her name was Katherine Johnson. I first heard about her when I watched the movie Hidden Figures in high school, and this movie was based off the true story of Katherine Johnson. I really admired her work and what she stood for as a person, and that is why I chose her. Katherine was a mathematical genius who was so advanced in school she skipped several grades and was 13 attending high school. When she was 18, she enrolled in college and graduated with honors and received a PhD in mathematics. Soon after that, she took a job as a teacher, teaching math to students at a black public school in Virginia. West Virginia decided to integrate its graduate schools, and that's when Katherine decided to leave her teaching job because she was handpicked by West Virginia's president for an opportunity to claim a spot in the graduate math group along with two males. This was a huge deal because this was the first time any African Americans were chosen for this program. Katherine sadly did not finish the program because she decided to start a family with her husband and went back to teaching after her daughters got older. Years went by before she found out about some positions opening up at the all-black computing section at Langley's laboratory. Her family packed up all their belongings and moved so she can pursue a temporary job at NASA. After being there for a few weeks, she was given a project to do flight research and spent a few years analyzing data from different flight tests and worked on the investigation of a plane crash that was caused by wake turbulence. So needless to say, her temporary job at NASA became permanent. In this time, America and the Soviet Union were kind of in competition on who was going to get a man into space first. Katherine's life was changed forever when she provided the math for the document's notes on space technology. The engineers from the group she did the math for formed the core of the Space Task Group, which was NASA's first foray into space travel. And of course, Katherine came along with the program. She worked closely with engineer Ted Shapkowski, and together they co-authored a report which included the equations describing orbital spaceflight and the specific landing of the spacecraft. This was a huge step for women in this time and such a huge accomplishment for Katherine Johnson. It was the first time a woman in the Flight Research Division received any credit as an author for a research report. Katherine Johnson also did trajectory analysis for Alan Shepard's mission Freedom 7, which would forever change space travel. In the early 60s, NASA was preparing for the orbital mission, and Katherine was the one they wanted to oversee the math that was going to safely get John Glenn into orbit and back down to Earth. The orbital flight was so complex that they had required the construction of a nationwide communication network that would link the tracking stations all over the world to computers in Washington, D.C. Those computers have been programmed with orbital equations calculated by a machine. It was the same equations that Katherine had done the analysis on for Mission Freedom 7, but the astronauts were still worried about putting their lives on the line and faith in a machine that was doing the calculations for them. Anything could go wrong with the machine, and John Glenn needed the calculations to be right. And that's when he told the engineers he wanted Katherine to come in there and do the same calculations that were programmed in the computer by hand to ensure that everything was correct. And if everything added up, then he would go into space. Katherine did the math and everything was correct, so John Glenn went up into space, into orbit, and the whole mission was a success. Katherine's work did not stop there with NASA. She authored and co-authored 26 more research reports, helped with the calculations for Project Apollo, and she also did work on space shuttles. Katherine's work ended when she retired after 33 years of working at Langley for NASA. The last greatest accomplishment Katherine received was in 2015. At 97, she received a very special award from President Obama, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is America's highest civilian award. Katherine was such a gifted soul who put her heart and her mind into making NASA what it is today. And without her, we could have never made it into space at all. She definitely made her footprint be known for African Americans, women, and NASA, and she will forever be remembered and cherished for all the hard work she did for America.
Good job. Do we all need to get over here?